What's up, everybody? Welcome in. See a few people. Let's see. It's glad to see you. I'm sure Andres is probably here. He seems to always be here pretty consistently. I appreciate him. And we've got my friend Day here today. Day is hiding.
Just hiding.
He's away from the camera.
Yep.
But if you hear a floating voice, that's my friend. So
Yep.
You work at Auth0? Not Auth0. The other security company.
Yeah.
And you do a lot of Go development.
I do Go
So
full time.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of feedback you can give me.
Oh, don't rely on that. No.
Or what I can teach you, I guess, will be the opposite.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. Got my 3D printer here now. So I feel like one day I'll just start printing something like during the stream. Although I don't know if I'll distract the viewers. What's up, Dr. K? Yeah, I have friends in real life, right? I have people, I know people.
I'm real.
IRL, as we say. So that'll be fun. Let's see. Yeah, so you won't see a lot of Day today, but he'll be here.
Yep.
They can hear you fine. The mic is just sort of attached to my studio display.
Yep.
Have you used Git work trees yet? Have I told you about Git work trees?
Work tree. I think you showed me.
Probably last time we were here, right?
Yeah, but I didn't get a chance to.
So like each of these folders is a copy of the repo.
Yes, you showed me.
And so that makes it really easy for me to have this rewrite, which I have in this V2 branch. And then the work tree file folder happens to also be called V2. And then I have sesh main. So my current workflow is sort of like transferring the source code from one branch to a brand new fresh branch. So I like wiped the branch out and I have a totally fresh setup. But what's up, Andres? Andres is here. So I was talking about you. Glad you're here. We were talking about dependency injection the last few weeks. And I think like 2 weeks ago, I was like really struggling. I was like, what is this? How does this work? I don't understand. And I'm glad to report to chat and to you that it makes sense now. It looks really interesting the way that it all comes together. So like the CLI, you basically, I have these wrappers. So I've wrapped core dependencies, like the exec dependency, the OS package. So these are all packages basically. And then I have a couple of base ones. So the shell one and this home one I use for basically running shell commands. And then this one is doing basic path substitution. So I want to take the user's home directory and I want to substitute it for the tilde. And then I do the opposite. If a string, like if these ones down here start with a string or with the tilde, I have to put the home directory back in order to run commands behind the scenes correctly. So that's one example. And then tmux and zoxide and the config. Config was something I've done a lot of work on since my last stream. So we're able to sesh config, create custom sessions. So like this is the home session, which points to the home directory, and it can run this L command, which is just an ls command basically. Like my tmux config session opens up the tmux config.files directory, and it opens the tmux config file automatically. So if you go to tmux config, tmux config session gets made, tmux config opens.
I see.
So stuff like that. It's really, really helpful. And Dr. K just started using sesh. So how has that been for you? Tell us in the comments how that is going. So he just adopted it. But you can see here, shell, and OS and path and runtime and all of these packages get injected into this implementation of this package. And the majority of these, when they're called at the higher level, like this app function, right? This is like the entry point for the application. It just calls real shell, and real shell is automatically scaffolded with this stuff. So like here's real tmux. We can attach session, we can switch client, things like that. And this one actually has a list session separate. So this is logic I've already done, but it's all been sort of rewritten in a way that when we call tmux, so like if we call, where's the actual function line? List command tmux list session -f, and we pass this custom format, and it gives us this really interesting looking format like this. And these values get used to get parsed. Hey, what are you doing? Getting into trouble. We got a chihuahua that likes to get into things. Anyway, so you can see here, like these are my sessions that are currently running, the top 3 right here. I don't want my unit test to actually run tmux list command, right? So but I know that the shell can be mocked. And so I'm using a library called testify. So this library, testify, lets me basically take the, well, let's just go to the shell. The shell has a mocked version, and this mocked version basically forwards whatever you put in here through their library. So this m.called is from the Mockify library, or not Mockify, testify mocks, you know, tooling. And then the actual test on tmux, we can say, hey,
how many times it's been called?
When, well, this is just straight up mocking. So when list command is called with the tmux command, and in this case, I'm just saying whatever. You can be specific, like we could say like the -f and the whatever, but this is just a shortcut because it's only within this test. I'm showing this output and I'm saying, hey, I'm expecting this raw output to be formatted into this tmux session model. And so this is my expectation, my expected value. And so then, you could just run it and it works. So I'm not actually having to run the shell. You know, I don't have to run tmux commands or zoxide commands or anything like that. And so I'm doing that with every dependency. Except there's one that I'm not doing it with. I'm not doing it with time parsing because it didn't seem necessary. And then like a couple of string related functions.
That's a built-in library. It's being tested already. So
well, and at the end of the day, like I don't need to mock them. That's kind of where I landed, is like I don't have to mock this. So when we list sessions, you can see down here we like join strings. We convert strings to certain values that are valid. So this whole convert library, I didn't go through the effort of mocking these pieces. But what's really important is sesh CLI is this stuff is all really important. And I'm not on the connecting path yet. But like, so basically all I've done is listed everything that needs to be listed. I think I call it sesh v2 list. So this is a recreation of existing functionality. So I can list zoxide results, I can list config values, and I can list existing tmux sessions. So that's like step 1 is list all of the things sesh can list. And then today we might start playing around with the connecting logic, which is really complicated and currently has bugs and probably can be written better. And so that's another opportunity with V2 is like following the path of like, if the thing you pass is a tmux session, then connect to that. And if it's not a tmux session, then look for a config with the same name. And if you see it, then use the config. And if you don't, then look up if it's a zoxide result. And if it's not one of those things, then there's additional fallbacks like query zoxide for something that partially matches the string. And if it comes back with a result, use that instead. So it's pretty loose in its ability to sort of figure out what you want. That's what makes Session great, is that I can just say like, I want to go to my big refactor. And just like that, with a few characters fuzzy, I can get to big refactor. But if you, it has a couple other features too, like if I do sesh connect dot, it will create a session off of the directory that you're in. And so dot files config gets made. So there's a couple like helper
I like that.
functions too.
Connect dot.
And I have it bound to like s dot. So if I hit s dot, it abbreviates out to that.
Is there any way to create like a session with that doesn't align with the directory name? Just like
so the configs. So all these here are just things that I came up with, like home, right?
Yeah.
So if I go to home, it creates a session called home, and it puts me in the home directory.
So you can dynamically create the config, or do you have to?
No, it's something that you would
go in there,
add a new entry. But Dr. K said he started playing with these recently. Let's see, what did he say? Simple workflow, yeah, which I'm loving that. Move from TMUX sessions to half a dozen sessions to more sessions with less tabs. Yeah, that's the idea, Dr. K. You're on the right path, man. So we can already see I have 3 sessions open. And during a certain workday, if I'm doing a certain number of things, I could have like 6 sessions or 10 sessions. 10 sessions is probably a little crazy, but I do a lot of work in a monorepo. So I don't open the monorepo in one TMUX session. I open each package that I'm working on, and the web app and the server app, and like they're all their own sessions, and then I can switch between them.
Okay, sounds good.
So that's how I've been using it.
Yeah, this is useful because sometimes I use sessions without like being inside of a particular directory, like config. I just want to do all config things in there.
Nice.
Yeah, things like that.
I've been playing around with this idea, which chat. This is a sneak peek. This is a sneak peek of what's to come. Basically, I think that there's something very cool about being able to create more than one session at one time. So you're like, oh, I need to like work on a full stack project. I want a server session. I want a web session. I want a core package session. I know I want all of them. I just want all of them at once. So I'll be coming up with I've been experimenting. I'll come up with some ideas of how that might work, so that you don't have to like, pop up web, pop up server, pop up core, pop up model. These are all things that I use a lot of. And so I'll often have all of these packages open at the same time because I am pretty disciplined at like, I know where the code is. I know what piece of code I'm changing at a time. I don't like changing like the model and core logic and web app logic all at the same time. Like I like to be like, okay, the server does this now. Does it work? Yes. Okay, cool. Implement the website. So I actually switch between them.
Yeah, I catch myself doing that a lot.
Yeah.
Like open 2-3 sessions at the same time.
But what's been so good about Sesh in general is I can kill TMUX. I just TK, I don't really care. And Dr. K, this is probably something along what you're doing too. Now you just kill TMUX and it shouldn't really matter. You should be able to just have your entry point, which I just have something called sesh start. It just gives me a list of all the sessions. And so we'll go back to V2. And just like that, we've talked about this before. All my sessions by default open up a file picker.
Okay.
I don't open up a shell.
Good.
So, boom, that was the last thing we touched, right? So it's right there.
Nice.
And so, as we save files and stuff, that list gets a little bit more helpful. But it's been really good. So I think playing around with State Machine would be fun today. Maybe just try something and see how it goes. I could even branch this if I wanted to. We can call this like V2 State Machine. And so I've looked at a little bit of research. Let's go ahead and update. I've done a little bit of research and I found that, let's go to here. It's probably going to be small for all of you. I'll bring it up a little. We could just use a package, but I'm pretty sure that there is some basic set state, transition, entering, exiting. We probably could design something. I could use your help in like conceptualizing it. But I think the real power in this, and one of these tools, maybe it's stateless. Yeah. So it's a fun image. This one lets you generate like state diagrams.
Nice. Okay, it's just like
with like a built-in, like just any tool that supports, how did they call this?
Oh, man.
Any dot graph language supported tooling like GraphViz. And so graph for instant gratification. So these guys, Web GraphViz, let you put something in, sorry for the light mode, and it just dumps it out. And so there's something about this tooling that lets you generate it out of it. What is this called? Diagram. State machine to graph. Method will return a string representing the state machine in the dot graph language. So pretty cool to see that we could visualize this.
Nice.
Does anyone have any recommendations in chat? I know there's almost a couple dozen people hanging out. Anyone use state machines in Go? Pretty specific, very specific, audience. So we'll see if anyone has. But I think at least this would let me conceptualize this better because it's a lot. No, I want sesh main. The connect logic under the connect package is the session determining logic. And so it does a lot of if config session do this. What do I say? Do I do something before? Determining the path. So it's already pretty nested. So if it was the dot, then we do the current working directory. We can evaluate symlinks. We can look for absolute paths. We can find sessions. So all of these things happen. And as they happen, even here, we end up querying Zoxide. So again, all of it's just sort of code flow like this. But if there's something that needs to go in a different order, it's very hard to conceptualize and like break it down. And that's what state machines are meant to do, is to make sure that every single potential state is not visually represented. It can be, but like is explicitly stated rather than just like hoping your if statements are right and hoping that there's an else here and hoping that you string joined correctly. It's like, man, it's a lot. It's been really hard. And I've been doing this since the Bash project over a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
So in my head, I understand how sesh works, but I think it would be really cool to be able to like visualize it, especially like the README. I could just run on build, generate the graph, use some sort of tooling to auto-generate the image, and then put the image on the README. And so anytime a change was made, you could even diff it. You could be like, this is the before graph and this is the after graph, right? If there were a change, you could read it.
I have a tool for that too.
Okay.
I forgot the name, but I'll figure it out during this.
Yeah. The image.
No,
image stuff or just diff stuff?
It's to draw the diagram on the fly. You just write code there.
Yeah.
And then on GitHub, when you do the preview, it actually shows you the graph.
Yeah.
I have it in one of my repos.
Okay. Yeah, that would be cool. What's up, Jersey? Jersey's here. Good to see you, man. We're about to get into it and do some coding. It looks like more people have joined. How exciting. So we're going to do some coding. I think it would be worth it to learn this one. It's got, I don't know, almost 800 stars. It seems like it's pretty mature. It's in a 1.6.9. I don't really want to recreate this from scratch, and I really want to be able to generate visually what it looks like. So we'll just play around with this and we'll see what happens. Create state machines, lightweight state machine based workflows directly in Go. It's a port of this .NET project called Stateless in C#. So this guy ported this project over basically. But it's using this ULM state model. So it's very procedural and explicit. Yeah, right. I've written a ULM chart in the past.
Yeah.
And so we get to sort of skip that part and we get to try our best to represent this through code. And so the on-hold state is, let's see, let me make sure that I'm understanding this. Support states and triggers, hierarchical state, entry exit events for state, yeah. Introspection, guard clauses, yeah.
Okay, that plugin I was mentioning is called Mermaid.
Yeah, Mermaid. Mermaid's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Mermaid. I bet we could generate something with a CLI. I'm pretty sure there are CLIs out there that we could install and use. All right, so we have basically hierarchical state where we say this thing is a substate of this and it permits these things. So I don't know, do we need to write can we write a diagram first? And then we probably can't auto-generate code, but we could.
Yeah,
I could attempt to. Oh yeah, we could just draw one.
Yeah. Because you need to change it. Like, oh, we can do this, we can do that. This is a possible thing for a user to do. Go from here to there. Yeah,
so that could be interesting, even just with Mermaid. I like Mermaid.
Yeah.
When the state machine enters, right. So you can say this is the configuring state B. The initial transition is to state C, and then state C. Oh, interesting. Okay. This is a lot. State machines can be pretty complex. So I'm a little bit hesitant to try to learn this on stream, but I guess that's the fun of it. That's why some people like to come hang out, is to see me attempt to learn something I've never done before or haven't done in this capacity.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that you create trigger parameters. This is one way of doing it. You create, your state machine has a set of, we probably just need to go to the examples after this, because I can translate something like a phone call. Yeah, you know, or something like that. Fairly straightforward. Do they have examples? Test data. Phone call. Oh, here's the diagram. Yeah. So when you're connected, an off hook, left message, connected, mute microphone. Okay, so these are potential states. And so if we were to...
Oh, I see.
Or actually, what was the other one?
Oh,
nice. So that's what, sorry for the white, everybody. So you're connected, right? When you're connected, you can mute, you can set volume, you can unmute, and then you can be put on hold, placed on hold, boom, you get put into the hold state. If you're taken off hold, boom, you go back to the connected state. If someone leaves a message, then you're automatically off hook, and the off hook potentially can go to ringing. So that's interesting, but this is more called dialed is what I would expect. So the call is dialed and then it rings. And then when you're on hold, you can potentially phone can be hurled against the wall and then your phone is destroyed when that happens. I love the humor in the example. So really the trick now is, I don't really like this tool. But project sesh state machine. You guys can see my second brain in action.
Nice.
You can actually put Mermaid.js here, and we can preview, toggle live nope, that's not it. What is the button? Okay, so if this diagram is here, I think, yeah. So it doesn't like that diagram, but we can mermaid.js, get started, state diagram. You draw it this way. So, boom. So we can see it live as we use it. I don't know why none of the formatting was showing up, but basically, what do? We do.
I think after each space.
Oh, it's after each space.
Kind of.
Yeah. Yep.
Still, it's moving. That should be on a separate line too.
Still to that.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. So we're going to have our starting point is connect, and connect goes to is tmux session. And then I think there's a way to draw like yes and no. If, yeah. Let's see, how much of this is false? If thing is greater than no. Yeah. So now we say if true, if false. Yes. No, I like these kinds of diagrams. So basically we say tmux connect. Can I do where's my it doesn't like that. Here are notes. We can do this. We'll just keep it simple. Connect to tmux. So that's yes. And if no, then we ask is config. And we say no is config. And then we repeat the process. So if we say is config yes, then we create config session.
I think those like is config, is tmux session, those are not states. Like in this part, you probably want like connect and the tmux session, or
yeah, I know you can visually represent them differently, but the state itself is what matters right now. So it's basically going to look like a binary tree. I think it's going to be like stacked sideways. If yes, do, no, then try something else. And if yes, then do that. And if no, then do that.
But it doesn't feel like a state machine if it goes like this. Because state machine, each entity should be like a state. But in this case, like is config is not a state. It's just the
It's a determining.
it's the thing in between, like to connect.
Oh, I see what you mean. So
connect
then
the two
instead, I
states.
would say sesh connect.
Like start, something like that, and then you can have. For now, you don't have to like.
And
do
so
the,
instead of that, I would just say
you don't have to connect to anything at this moment.
I connect to tmux.
Now, you just need to figure out how many states are there. Yeah, just like that. How many states? Do
And
you
then
want?
if the connect command is no, then we ask
Connect command. Okay.
I still run into this issue of something gets determined, and then
forget about the determination.
Yeah.
Just think about the states. It doesn't matter what they do in between.
the only state that matters, it's just determining the final result.
So you have tmux session as one
Yeah.
state, and config session as one state,
Yeah.
and
Zoxide, yeah.
Zogside
Yeah.
session as one state. So, and then the fourth one is other.
It'll be like directory, like a path.
But that's Zogside, right?
No. Outside of Zoxide, we can just say, is this part of the hard drive?
Oh,
Is this just
okay.
like a folder that exists?
Okay. Then you can have 5 states now. One is like the start state.
Yeah.
But before you input anything, and then 4 other states. So those 5 states there.
Yes.
Does that make sense? And
I think
then,
so.
And then between each other, you draw lines. Like, okay, from here to there, I need to.
So do you? But that's the part that confuses me with these diagrams. Is like this one.
Mm-hmm.
If yes, this is what happens. If no,
and in this case,
then there's a new branch.
Mm-hmm.
There's not 2 branches, but what you're saying is I just don't know how to.
So you can only go from. So basically, you go from one state to another. So can we go from connect command to config state? Yes, right? So basically in there, the determination is like, in this case, it's yes to tmux, or you do 2 checks to go to config session. But in states, it's one line. You go from connect command to both states.
Okay. So how do you visualize that?
Basically,
Are any of these useful?
States, because yours is pretty one layer, just like from.
Yeah, you can't really move backwards or forwards, or you can only move one direction.
And then
and it's like a branching thing. Like if it can't do that, then go try the next thing. And if it can't do that next thing, then do another thing. And it keeps repeating until it comes up with something or crashes.
Then this is like a sequential state.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily go into that state. So like probably like one layer, one from one top one, and go into for the second level one.
Oh, then it's not really useful in going through
useful.
This much.
Yeah,
in the state machine that
state
I'm trying
machine
to
is
draw.
Usually like complex states, and different states can interact with each other, and different actions can be taken from this one state to another. But in this case, it's just fewer.
It's just like code flow.
Code flow.
We're just trying to represent code flow. It's not really like.
Then
it's not really like.
Probably
holding state doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, and also there's no interactions between those 4 sessions.
It's like each time we get to one, a certain evaluation is made. And then just imagine like 6 if statements in a row. If this, exit early. Okay, keep going. If not, exit early. Then just, and do the thing, and it just repeats until
just do a flow chart.
To the end.
Just do a flow chart. Type.
Flow chart.
It's yes, no, that kind of thing.
Yeah. That makes more sense. And maybe a state machine isn't needed. Maybe we just need to visualize this once.
Yeah. I mean, in this case, I thought like you have something to change from one state to another. Like,
This is what I think.
Yeah. This
is actually the kind of thing. It is a flow chart then. It's not really a state machine.
Yeah.
Which is probably why it was better that we started here anyway.
Yeah. So in here you can do yes or no,
right?
That kind of thing. So basically off branch.
Yeah.
But like that state machine is really interesting. I learned that like 7 to 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I was pretty good in that class, but like after that, I never remember that again until today. I was like, oh, okay.
Parsing on TD8, flowchart TD. Okay. Nice. We're learning. This is fun. I think just doing this in public is interesting, and I don't know if anyone has any feedback once we get. I guess if we get moving further, I should be able to say like sesh start connect name. Can I not do double quotes? There we go. Connect name. And then we just
is it that kind of thing?
Right. So B is TMX session. Yes, then TMX connect name.
Yeah.
And then if we don't need to rethink, CD. It always gets fun trying to work through all of these. So D becomes is config.
Yeah.
And then from D, we can say if yes. Then E is TMUX create name. Basically, yeah. We can do left to right. I kind of like left to right. Left to right.
Oh,
kind of cool, right? And you can take this guy and you can put it down here. Boom.
That's why you have a wider screen.
That's why we got the big screen. Can anyone see this? What do you guys think? There you go. You're welcome. All right. And so then if it's a config, then we do that. And if no, then we determine if it is dir is passed. So Zoxide, it doesn't really matter. Zoxide is always going to end up giving us a full path.
Right.
Like it's just like
the end result is the path.
It's just like here you go. Here's the full path.
Is there anything to do like you can just do -F to create like a set hard-coded name for your session? Like
it's doing that all the time. Under the hood, it's like if the sesh has a certain name configured, then it does that. The thing we haven't talked about, which is another piece that's really complicated, is I auto-generate your session name for you. That's kind of the fun of sesh. Dr. K, maybe you could say more about how you're liking that part of the feature, but like if I'm going to pull up like the sesh v2, the reason that it's sesh v2 is because sesh says, is this a Git repo? Okay, then I'm going to use that as the base of the session name. And then if it sees that it's part of a work tree, in this case, these are work trees, I choose to prepend the work tree directory above it automatically. But if we were to go to somewhere like downloads, oh, this one's named. So this one's named. All right, so that's a bad example. What is not named that is useful?
Config. .config.
.config. Well, so that one, let's go to like .config/fish.
Okay.
This is busted, right? This is a bug.
Okay, but it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be .files. So we do config fish. where does this actually go? Yes, so this is a
Okay.
symbolic link, and symbolic links are a little bit busted. So I need to, I think I just need to do better unit testing so that if
that'll catch
this runs into a symbolic link, then I expect this output, and I can, the problem that I'm having right now is that this like file path eval symlinks isn't, there's no mocking of this thing right now.
I see.
So as I convert it all to version 2, I'm going to make a mockable version of file path.eval symlinks, and if that turns out to be true, then I can make sure that this path is mock that as well. So if I'm taking something that I expect is a symlink, then I want to make sure that my session name is not this. This is busted. This is the wrong thing.
Gotcha.
So it's probably just some basic substitution stuff that's just buggy, but I don't have a good way to unit test it right now. Gotcha. So I don't know if it matters that we go through all of this because I conceptually already know what all this is. It happens in twofold. The first is what session's supposed to be made. So we were just talking about that code a few minutes ago. It's called determining. So my determine logic from before determines the path. So the path gets determined ahead of time. Session, connect. We determine the session, and it returns to me this value, and this value I connect to it via tmux. So this code doesn't read great. It's not that different than what it used to be. So I think I'll be rewriting it to be more clear. But like the
logic's inside of the determine, right?
Because choice goes in, the config itself goes into that.
Gotcha.
And on the determine, we check, is it a tmux session? Okay, then return it. If not, it's a path. Okay, well then determine what the path is. And then separately, I determine the name based off of the path.
And here, you can actually,
and then we return it, and then that ends up here. The session gets determined, and then we connect to it. So this will be written better, this version 2. And maybe I can do it differently where I don't always have to determine the session. I don't always have to determine the name.
Maybe you can make it configurable, or the order you grab it from some configuration, your config, your sesh config.
So sesh config will return certain names and paths just for us. Like it'll just work.
I mean, like, do you have like a config for your project? Like, not this config for the session, but like config.
I don't have global configuration for the project yet. Aside from, there is some configuration happening on the CLI. This is called yourfav. This is the package we're using, yourfav CLI. So this is the package. And these are some of the configurations, like what is the name of the command, the CLI command? What is the alias for it? What is the usage description? What are the potential flags? So these are the flags that you can create.
Okay.
And so I have created a very thin wrapper.
Okay.
So the CLI is like the least important piece of the code. It like scaffolds the CLI itself.
I see.
But everything else has been separated. So what I mean by that is, and this has been improvement from version 1 even more, because there was some like business logic basically in this place. So now it's just an S list. This is the session package. So this is like the core sesh CLI. This session thing is like session.session is just like the core package that holds all the logic.
Gotcha.
And I'm converting all the CLI flags into a strut of the actual options. So it's like a translation layer. And then when we get all the sessions out, they show up as a array of this model.
Okay.
So then I print out each one, which gives me the sesh. It just gives me the list. All right, so I can do -T for tmux. I can do -C for config.
Okay.
I can do -C for Zoxide, and I can mix those. So I can do like tmux and config.
Okay.
And that lets me do stuff like this, where tmux lets me, this is FCF. I can like switch to only Zoxide results, only tmux results.
That's pretty cool.
What else? Only config. I don't have config set. How does that work? G? Because Control C is to quit, and I don't want to change that. Anyway, so that
that's pretty cool.
It's a great CLI. It's been really useful so far, but the connect logic, it just needs to be improved. And some of my bigger ideas will require.
It might be cool if you have like .sesh file.
.sesh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I was showing you earlier. Sesh,
that's the config.
Config. So that's what these are.
So can you add some other?
You can import.
Okay.
So if you want this to be under your specific project,
okay.
You know, like days project.
Okay.
.sesh.toml.
Oh.
You can repeat all this.
Oh, okay.
But as of right now, it's all hard coded. So there's an opportunity to do relative stuff in the future, maybe. But the way that this works right now is we run the toml parser and we dump all of these values out into this file. So it kind of ends up all being one big monolithic config. And so that I haven't worked out completely, but that's the current path. I originally, in the past, we had like a dot file in the project.
Oh, yeah.
But that was really specific to the project.
Yeah.
Why would you put it in version control unless how many other people are using sesh realistically? You know, it's like probably not that many.
Yeah.
Unless it's a household name, which would be amazing. I don't think a lot of people use tmux, and even fewer use my specific session manager. So that was one thing. The other thing was the majority of those files all looked the same.
Yeah. Right.
They almost all looked exactly the same. And so now I have this default session. My startup command is to open Vim and to do a file picker.
Yeah.
And so now any file that isn't configured, all of them do this.
Gotcha.
So I can go to anywhere in my computer, like you can just go to a random spot, like what is a good example? MLX examples. This is some machine learning stuff. It just does this command because I don't want to start with the shell by default.
What about like at the session orders over there too? Like startup command, you have another one called order, like search order or something like that.
Yeah, so there'll be more. And once I finish this rewrite to version 2, I can come up with more clever features like that, where it's like, I'm going to change the order in which things get returned based off of the config value.
Yes.
Okay. I would have to manually test that because I can't easily mock Zoxide. I can't mock tmux in a simple way, but now I can. So now I just have to re-implement it. You know, I think a lot of it I can just kind of copy and paste a lot of it over, but like the config command stuff, when we did the connection logic, the idea of custom configs didn't exist. It literally didn't exist. All that could exist was that you could pick a folder, and if that folder lined up with something at the very end of the code flow, it would just like execute something.
I see.
And so that was all procedural and in a kind of a weird place. And so now it's like, well, what if I kind of want to be able to integrate like these in line with the Zoxide results by use. So rather than like having FCF tmux URL, who I haven't touched in 6 weeks, here way above all of these Zoxide results that are useful that I use every day, kind of thing.
Give them scores.
So I already have the score of that directory. So it's just a matter of merging the config data, because all of this happens right now. V2 on the list. I have this. It's fairly straightforward when we look at the final result. I went ahead and created this really simple function that just says, hey, give me sources If no options are passed, then all of the options are true.
I see.
And if any are given, it goes by the options. So like these are defaulted to false if you were to pass something in. Anyway, so this is already simpler than what it used to be. And then there's individual functions that say list the tmux sessions and convert them to the sesh session. This is like a standardized model.
Nice.
And then config sessions, same thing, standardized model. So we have the name and the path, and then Zoxide. And so the function itself just says create a list, and then append each of these to the list as they come in. Boom, boom, boom. But if we say if the option was passed, then do it a different way.
Right.
That's not that hard to do. It's just a bit of logic. And so like here, I would imagine listing the Zoxide results. It'd be like if option merge, config and Zoxide. If that's the name of the option that I decide, then I would have a merge command.
Right.
And I already know
do they have
the
scores?
source. The source is given as all the models have a source. So we know if it's tmux configure Zoxide. It shows up in the data model.
It has a score there too.
Yeah, so score gets forwarded along.
Perfect.
If it's attached or not, there's a feature that says, hey, list all the sessions and hide the current session I'm on.
Okay.
So here I'm on sesh v2. If I do this, we can see sesh v2. But there's an option where if I say sesh list,
like all,
there's one called hide attached. So this is something other people want, but I didn't. So if I do that,
I see.
sesh v2 doesn't show up here.
Okay.
Because
when you switch,
it's explicit. Yeah.
When you switch to others, you want others only. Okay.
So this hide attached, I would love to have a unit test on this, and I will soon. But it's just like I only spend like an hour or two at a time on this right now.
Gotcha.
So the momentum is not a lot. But maybe I'll take a weekend and then take a lot more time. We make decent progress, but the last couple streams when we're talking about sesh, I was trying to wrap my head around this crazy dependency injection stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's...
I was like, wait, how does this work?
Yeah.
And when all this fit together, when I wrote this code, and then I ran it, session. So session is really the only package that we need for list, because list is just a proxy. Session is the entry package for all logic, and this is just a loose implementation of the CLI version. But I'm gonna probably make a TUI, like a lazy git like tool, for sesh at some point.
Okay.
And then I can take the session core logic and I can list all the sessions, but instead of rendering them out with a CLI, I can render them out in a custom box, in the TUI.
Yeah.
And when you select something, I can sort, you can have like keyboard bindings for like sort by use or reverse sort or filter, and like all of those actions will have to be done internally via Go.
Yeah.
And so I can, but if I can't test any of this stuff easily, then it gets really hairy really fast.
Yep.
And so people have shown me libraries that like let me do some of this boilerplate stuff automatically, which is kind of cool.
Generating like the
like this stuff
version of it.
So like here's all the dependency. Like the mock, exactly. Show like the shell. You have all these mock commands. You have to physically type these out.
You can just call.
There's tooling. Well, there's tooling that lets you do that.
Yeah.
But you have to pick the package and you have to use the package the right way. It's not built in to Go.
Right. I remember it's just like one command, like go gen or something.
Yeah. So now that I understand it, I'm okay with potentially simplifying the code base to less boilerplate logic or whatever. But I didn't want to lean on that.
Oh, I see.
Because leaning on that means that it just kind of does it, and then it doesn't mean I understand it, and so that's why I went this path.
So one thing you could do, like on top of this, like like for the dependency injection
Yeah.
part, you can define some like interface for, let's say, exact.
Yeah. There is an interface.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Then you can just
All of these have an interface.
yeah, you can just generate the mock based on this interface. Like just say, okay, just run this command.
What is the tooling that you use to generate?
Let me see.
I've already done my research, and there are mock libraries.
Yeah.
Right, and that's what their purpose is to do, is to simplify this part.
Yeah, I think that's.
What is it called? Go.
Oh, I think the command is go generate, generate, but like I forgot which one I was using.
Shield your eyes.
Let me go to my work directory.
Let's see if we get anything useful.
Oh, perfect.
From Perplexity. Yeah, so like GoMock and MockGen. I saw both of these tools. And so you just call them and it generates the code for you. I'm totally down to try to use one of these. But
yeah, MockGen, just like
But MockGen is just one of the choices.
Yeah.
And so this is just a mock library.
Right.
This is just, this one's been publicly archived. So they're recommending this product, Uber's mock library.
Oh.
And this was actually one of the big choices in all my research. When I was trying to figure out dependency injection, I was using the Claude Opus language model. They're a competitor to ChatGPT.
Oh, okay.
And it was really solid, and it gave me lots of good examples of how this all this stuff works. But a lot of this is like you go here and I think you like tag foo interface.
Right. You just feed it to the command.
And then building stubs. So you have your interface, and then you say this expects this to be this. Yeah. So it's a similar pattern. It's totally the same thing. Mockery, nice. So Andres is using Mockery.
Mockery is the one we're using, yes.
Yeah, so Andres is saying the same thing in chat.
Yeah, Mockery.
So this one's similar, right? Don't you tag something? Or you don't have to tag it. It just Mockery provides generate interfaces using the Testify mock package. Cool.
Yep, Mockery, that's the one we're using too.
Yeah. And see, I've already started. So I'm aware that this thing exists. I think their website has documentation. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's better. Yeah.
So this probably would help me
tests.
Get rid of that boilerplate logic.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, this is it. You do this, right?
Exactly. That's generated. Yeah. Let me see.
And then go generate. That's what you said. Go generate. So that's the function. I mean, I'm down to upgrade to this for sure. I think upgrading to this would make sense. I'm more concerned about not code coverage for the sake of a number, but for the sake of covering
core features,
the stuff that really matters with this library. Or this what do we call this CLI product. And so that's kind of where I'm leading myself to here in the near future, is to get the complicated, weird, how do I connect to a package? How do I come up with what the name of the package is? A lot of it's determined on, I can already see most people haven't complained or asked too much about it. They seem to be okay with the way that I name things.
Yeah.
But when I first launched version 1, there were lots of bugs, and people were like, "Hey, I'm getting a weird name, or this isn't, the session name is strange and it doesn't look right." And so that ended up being something that I spent a lot of time fiddling with. And then the whole point of the Go package is to be able to build a lot more complex logic and scale and create more features that are a lot more interesting. And so all that will come, but I have to test it in order to stay sane.
Yep.
I don't even put that much time into this project compared to other things, in my life. So
Yeah.
when I'm here, I want to be able to get to the point quickly.
Oh, next time you try to do the test driven first, write the test first
Yeah.
before you write the feature.
Yeah.
It's
I love test driven development when I have the chance to do that.
Yeah.
Like the height attached probably is one I could properly.
Yeah.
The thing is, I've been spending so much time wrapping my head around what mocks are and how they work. So I think in the next few weeks there'll be a much bigger chance at doing a TDD approach where it's like I just have to implement the logic.
Yeah.
This is the test. This is what I want. Okay, I should run it and it should fail, and then I implement the logic and it should pass.
Yeah.
The red to green programming, I love it.
Yeah. Once it's green, move on to the next test.
This project has proven to be fairly straightforward in its use. When you use it, it just works. It works incredibly well most of the time. It's very performant now that it's written in Go, because Bash wasn't very performant. So what I'm excited for is if we can add more features. Like I've spent 6 months or so now, well, maybe a little bit less, with sesh, and I'm already thinking of even better ways to get to what I want, using the product, in those kinds of ways. So I think the running out of ideas probably won't happen anytime soon.
Nice.
But I have to be able to implement things quickly and be a little bit more confident that I'm not creating regressions.
Right.
Because I literally, like in February, I think I shipped this in like late January, February is when this came out officially.
Okay.
And when I shipped certain new features, I actually accidentally broke old features, and people told me quickly in the issues, hey, there's a GitHub issue. Hey, this thing doesn't work. And I'm like, oh shit, sorry. And 20 minutes later, it's fixed.
But still,
and I have to re-release it, and I have to say, okay, download the next version. So I don't really want that to happen as much.
Right.
And we tried to do integration tests. Did not work.
No.
This idea of like creating a virtual machine that has Zoxide and Tmux, installed.
Yeah.
And then you start a Tmux session in a certain way, and then you run a command in the CLI and you expected an output. Like it was really not, it didn't work. I think that some of the people on stream tonight, I think some of you were there when we tried doing that testing, and it just doesn't work.
Okay.
There will be some, I think there could be some like what we're seeing here, this like screen grab. I think there's an opportunity to create some things like that,
right?
Which is cool, but this isn't very useful in being a source of truth when it comes to like testing.
Right.
Like, does this test pass? Then I'm good to ship. It's like, nah, not really.
So for now, it's a mix of like manual.
I did all manual testing before, but some people had weird situations that I was like, I've never come across this situation, nor could I have predicted that you would have done this. This is weird.
To the checklist.
Well, I had someone like they put all their symbolic links in like a Dropbox or something.
Oh, okay.
Or they started at Dropbox and then they symbolically linked all of their projects. And I was like, oof, symbolic links are way more important for you than they are to me.
Right.
Like it would only impact me like every now and then. But like this person is like, every time they ever did anything, it was tied to some sort of symbolic link. And I ultimately told them, hey, use sesh, but when you pick something from sesh, pick the original file path. Don't pick the symbolically linked path as your sesh, where you land for the session. And I was like, okay, don't do that. So that's where I landed. And a lot of my dot files stuff, so the dot files live under my code directory, which I have just a C directory for code.
Okay. I need to set up this.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I haven't.
So if I go to like fish, I don't want to go to config fish. I want to go to C dot files config fish, which I have under fish config. So for me, this was recent when we started implementing configs. Like instead of trying to find the right fish one, like which fish path is the one that I need to go to get to where I want to go. Now I just hit fish. It is always prioritized above the Zoxide results. And it always opens up the fish.config file.
This is very
So
useful.
it's just like straight to the point. Same with Tmux, which we showed earlier.
Yeah.
Straight to the Tmux file.
Oh yeah. The other day I have to.
WesTerm is my terminal emulator. Straight to the WesTerm file. So now, like, if I just need to edit the config files, I just open up the appropriate session.
I had to rely on my history to know where, like, a letter.
Yeah, you have to think about it.
Yeah.
So it's been even more useful to have like this. Because then if I ever type fish, I always know this will be the first result.
Oh man!
And I'll always get to the fish config file. Always, like I'll never fail unless I've done something funny and I have a fish session open that isn't that one.
Oh, in that case, how do you take that out of the log side result?
So I've already done that in version 1. I've already done that. I look at the path to this Tmux session. For those that don't know, this has led some confusion to people in the past. Every Tmux session has Tmux list sessions. Every Tmux session has a name and a path assigned to the session. So see how like downloads is assigned to the downloads directory. Fish config is assigned to c.files config fish. Some people don't use sessions this way. They just say like, I want like a work session.
Yeah, like,
and I'll just do whatever I want in that session and go wherever I want in that session.
Right.
If you lean in on this behavior, basically, anytime you go to any folder, just use sesh.
Oh, I
like
see.
Literally just use sesh. Like, oh, I need to get to like lazy git config. Lazy git. Now this is a session, and the session is called lazy git, and it's going to application support lazy git, which is where the lazy git config file lives. So rather than I'm going to open up the dot files and I'm going to try to get to the neovim thing, I can just go to neovim, and now this is my neovim setup. So config/invim is where all the files live. But instead of, so basically I don't really CD.
That's good.
I don't CD. Like if I'm going to go to a different directory, it's probably a different Tmux session using sesh.
I need to download that.
Like I use sesh to CD basically.
I'm guilty at this point. I think I don't have sesh installed.
So
let me see.
A week from tomorrow, the sesh video will come out.
Okay.
And it will be a little bit more formulaic in how I explain this. But basically, you shouldn't ever have to CD. Just create a session for wherever it is you're trying to go. You're trying to go to the downloads folder, go to the downloads folder. Right? And if you're trying to go to the download folder, I open up my file manager. This is called Yazzie. And so now I have, I just have that open. And when I'm done and I don't want to look at the downloads anymore, I just close Command W to close the window. It just closes the session and it sends me back to a different session that I was on before.
I really love this config session. Really nice.
It's so nice.
That config session is basically what I'm talking about. Some places I want to go.
And it only I have one called sesh config that explicitly opens up this file. So if I want to make a new one, I can.
Nice.
So if I want, instead of downloads being Yazzie, I could say that this is an LS. And so if I said download LS, then, that one's not going to work as well. I haven't played, we will probably improve it in the future, but there's more to be done with ones that have the same path. It's because of the way that I determine what session needs to be ran. I made a lot of assumptions early on in the project that need to be rewritten. Gotcha. The assumptions need to change now. Okay. And so those assumptions, they'll change. The one I really like that I've been playing around with is this idea of a proxy session. There's probably a better way to implement this, and I think I will do it differently. but basically these are lazy plugins. So watch what happens. It asks me what lazy plugin do I want, and I automatically am previewing the README file right here. So these are the README files. And let's say I want to go to Capuchin. I pick it. It creates a Capuchin session, and the lazy session gets killed automatically in the background. So it's like a proxy session is what I'm calling it. So it's like, all right, this is to create a whole list of other things I might want to do and go create another session. Because otherwise you end up with, what do you end up with? Local, share, invin, lazy, and you have all these lists. But these only show up if you've CD'd into them or if you've told Zoxide, you need to index these. But right now, if I do lazy commidia, it takes a bit to type out all of that to get to where I want to go. Right. So I've been playing around with it.
What's the command that you use to get to the proxy?
It's a custom sesh config. So it is doing a sesh connect command, and the command is an FCF command that is using the glow CLI to render the README, and then after the connect command connects, it runs an exit as a secondary command. So it ends up creating another session, and then the previous one exits.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a hack. I feel like there's a better way to do this. Just today, I've been playing around with this
that's pretty cool.
New work tree picker. So this is like a Git work tree. So I'm going to say, okay, which work tree do I want? I want the main work tree. Okay, great. Okay, from the main work tree, what do you want to pick from? And these are all of the things that are in that specific work tree folder that I picked. So I may want like web. And so it's a way of like doing a multi-step filtering system. What I plan to do with this is I don't want to just pick one of these because I already can get to it pretty easily without dual steps. But what I think I want to do after this is like have there be pre-configured ones like web, server, core, and it creates 3 sessions if I pick that one.
Okay.
Or something like that. We're going to see how it goes.
Okay.
But it's going to be like you can pick
multiple.
You can pick like a pre-configured set of sessions, and those set of sessions will get you going. Yeah, it'll spin up whatever it is you're trying to do. Yeah. So that'll be my next layer. What do you guys think, chat? Do you guys like this idea of like multi-stepped? You start here, you pick something. Wait, that wasn't right. Lazy. And then it sends you to another thing, and then you pick from there. And then when you're done, you end up with something customized and specific to whatever your workflows are asking of you.
Can you do that in the config though?
Well, so that's the idea. Yeah, that's the idea. So the sesh config right now has this idea that you could just run a different command. So in this case, I'm just running an FCF command on top of it. But what I think I want to do in the future is displaying a pop-up. So Tmux has this idea that you can display pop-up, and so you can have a pop-up. Just it's not tied to a session. It's just a thing. So I can be like, I want main, please, and then I want server, please, right? And then when you're done picking it, you can have it execute whatever it is you can execute, like execute another sesh connect command or execute. A script or whatever it is you want to do.
So potentially in your config, it's already doable because you can nest this command in the startup command.
Yes.
Already.
Yes. So I can do that, but that one,
it's a little, a little bit of a hack.
Where I'm going to end up with it probably is instead of there being an actual session, there'll probably be some sort of command, and the command could be like new utility work tree. And it's, like a Tmux display pop-up, right? Maybe it's just called pop-up or something. And so then you could do your...
Or what about like sessions instead of session?
Well, so this one is command. This one, the whole workflow I was just showing you probably is specific to what people want.
Okay.
Like you would create a shell script or some sort of script that would do something specific to your what you want to do. What I found
fit it to that session.
Yeah, and so you would So that's my first idea.
So what about like create a sessions section?
Sessions could be interesting. Yeah,
sessions, and then instead of having path, you have.
I think you can do
a list.
I think you can do more than one.
Yeah.
And I nest.
Because if that can be done, you could just create a set of things.
I think that's an interesting idea.
Does not. What about like instead of nesting, just do sessions, and there you give it like its own set of parameters.
I wonder if
okay.
Session dot commands.
Okay.
So yes, you use the dot syntax.
Perfect.
So you can say session dot session. That might work.
Yeah. You just parse it in the code.
Because the toml parser already will pull this all apart in a useful way.
And then you can reuse the parser.
So that's interesting. I didn't realize you could do that. However, if I have other I don't know if it represents a distinct element in an array of tables. Got it. So you can stack them like that, and it's valid.
Okay.
I love this idea. Holy shit. Where it's like, okay, I picked this session, but there are subcommands already defined in your toml, and you can add more in the future. And when you're happy with what you've done, then I can just say, like, if there are commands, then automatically run the display pop-up. This shows up automatically when you start that session.
Gotcha.
That would be so dope.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I like this.
But you know how all this works. And chat, I'm curious if you guys like this idea. There's like 50 people here, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Give me your feedback. Do you like this idea? Do you love this idea? Do you hate this idea? Would you use this idea tomorrow if I implemented it? Like, tell me. The reason Sesh is so awesome is because I'm just using it every single day and figuring out, I think all of us know as programmers, basically the only way that these kinds of tools get better is by learning your behavior and finding out what patterns you're doing over and over and over and over again. And so now after like a decade of being a programmer, I'm like, I do the same thing every day, all the time.
Yeah.
And the more layers that we get into this, just the more interesting ideas I come up with.
Awesome.
It's basically where I've landed.
Yeah, I'm glad I can, come up with something.
Yeah.
And so the structure. Let's see if that people like that.
Yeah, I'm just curious if anyone likes this. What I'm gonna think about in the near future is like, I think I love this idea of adding commands to the sesh, instead of it only being a list of sessions and connecting to it, that we could integrate commands into this.
You can already do that, right? The startup command.
But it will create a session and run a thing.
Right.
So instead, it would just run a command. Like, I want to update my something. So I just run it and boom, it updates.
In the background?
In the background.
Then you can just hide it.
I think a detached mode would be interesting.
Yeah, detached it.
A detached mode would be cool. Anyway, so there's ideas like that where it's like, I want to, like let's talk about this sesh main. I may not want to go to the sesh main session. I may want to be asked, what do you want to do in this session? Do you want the web and the server and the whatever, and picking from all those? And when I pick from all of those, then after that step, it creates sessions.
Yeah.
So it's like a proxy thing. The thing I was just showing you feels like a hack. So instead of actually the lazy one, instead of creating a lazy plugins session, I would rather just have a pop-up that gives me more options. Like, just give me a pop-up. Let me pick the second thing. Like, I'm going to pick plugins, then I'm going to pick the plugin I want, and then I'm going to make a session. So I just want to have like a way to get to the thing.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The thing that's been annoying and that I've not been a fan of so far when it comes to FCF in general is that all that FCF gives you is a string.
Okay.
Like all that we see here, all it is a string. It's literally like there's nothing else here, just a string. So what I want to do and what I think will make this project better is I can do some Go specific fuzzy picker, which we originally started doing. And so your fuzzy matching is finding the name of the session, or maybe even the path of the session could be part of the matching. And then when you pick it, we have the whole model, right? Like we have the whole model session. We have all these values. We know what the source is. We know what we know what the score is. Like we know all the metadata is there. I don't have to reverse engineer the string to find the value again, because that's how sesh works. Sesh list just dumps these strings, and then sesh connect figures out what this is all over again. And it's a lot of extra work.
Reverse lookup, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so like the moment that I pick this, sesh lists all the tmux sessions again and determines that the session up here that I chose to connect to is the same as the session that already exists. And so it runs a connect command.
Probably if you want to do that, you can do a SQLite database.
Well, we had that out there.
Oh, you had? Or...
It never got merged.
Okay. Because if it's SQLite, you can do something like I can't pronounce that word. Is that
So we worked on it, and there was an implementation feature that was written by Agus. I don't know if Agus is here, but he contributed a little bit, and he gave us a little bit of a boilerplate as a starting point. But like you have to run migrations. And it's a file that lives on everybody's computer separately.
Yeah.
So the idea of making a breaking change or something is like, oof. Then how the hell do you get the SQLite files to all be right? And unfortunately, one of the paths forward is like, well, you would delete the SQL file and start over, but then you would lose everything.
Unless you do migrations, like if you want to do the breaking change, you do it slowly, 2 steps. Do the addition and do the deletion later.
Right. So SQLite, I'm not abandoning the idea entirely, but
yeah, if you want to do that past the object,
what did I end up? I ultimately said, thanks for putting it together. Due to the unexpected complexity this is going to bring to the project, I would like to pose this PR. So we just decided that like the project gets way more complicated trying to have some sort of database that you manage locally on someone's computer.
I mean,
because Zoxide handles all the hard work so far.
Yeah,
like Zoxide does all that stuff.
It's gonna have a performance dent a little bit too to your package and everything.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where we landed. I just said, we'll focus on improving existing integrations right now. So we wanted to make the existing tooling better.
That's gonna be a future.
So I'm not completely I'm not against the idea, but it was so early on in the project that I was like, I am just getting the hang of this. Introducing a database type system for a local development, thing is like, oof, this is a lot. The way Zoxide works, though, we've talked about this. It's a file on your computer.
Zoxide is not using SQLite?
Nope.
Okay.
Let's find it. It's in here. Local share. It's in here somewhere. I just have to find it. Maybe it's not local. Maybe it's application support. Let's see if it knows. Local share. Application support. Okay, it is application support. Yeah. So it's just a ZO file. It's like some sort of binary file.
Okay.
Or not binary. I don't know. It just dumps the values on a file. So db.zo.
Huh.
So the path forward.
Their own thing, probably.
Yeah, it's their own thing. And then so they read this file very quickly and they write to this file very quickly.
Okay.
And if you add new things or remove things, those actions write to this file very quickly and do what they want to do. So anyway,
I see.
it's great. I love the way that it works. I don't really want to implement this feature right now.
Yeah, I don't think you need it just because you want to pass the object over. Or the ID of the object.
Yeah, I'm with you. So
the string is just fine.
Yeah, string works so far, and the TOML. I do prefer it. I think there's an opportunity to offer other formats if people really wanted it, because the implementation layer now is pretty thin. So now instead of TOML package, I could add a YAML package or a JSON package or something. So there's an opportunity for the config layer itself for people to pick what they want. I could also see potentially people using only the config. They could not use Zoxide if they wanted.
Yeah.
Like you just scaffold everything with the config file, and you don't have to really touch.
That's a neat idea too.
It's a neat idea. I also think it'd be fun to offer icon support per session, so you could assign the icon. Instead of all being cogs, like the home directory could be the home icon.
Nice.
And so icons I haven't implemented yet in V2.
Okay,
they don't feel like they're the most important feature to implement.
Right. That's where your artsy genes kicking.
My artsy genes, yeah. And we've got the Raycast plugin. I don't know. Have you used this yet?
Yeah,
the Raycast?
Yeah, I just did the AI built-in, not the paid version, but I did the.
Are you using sesh?
No.
On Raycast, you can if you want. I don't use it very much, but it's a nice to have.
I'm guilty of that. I need to download.
But anyway,
sesh.
yeah, you can use sesh on Raycast. I pretty much exclusively use it with this Command K pop-up.
Okay.
Because Discord has Command K. All the other apps have the command palette.
The Slack, Command K, yeah.
Slack has Command K. So that's what this is. That's why I was talking about commands.
Right.
I think it'd be interesting to interweave sessions with
the
potential commands, so that you could say, I want to run a command.
That can be a state machine problem.
Maybe
you do session, then you do command, and you do config.
Right.
Those three states, because this could be built into your state. Your
it
code.
could.
Yeah.
So I think in the next implementation, version 2, I think I'm just going to pass a dash icon flag to both sides.
Okay.
So that there's no clever, is it this icon? Is this symbol in front of the string? Okay, then make sure to parse it out. It's no, but why don't we just tell the system, if you're going to connect, there's a dash I flag. So it expects the icon. And then it doesn't matter what the icon is. It will always go, okay, great. I'll remove the first 3 characters or whatever it is that, I think it's the first 3 characters. I do it manually right now in the main connect.
Eventually, that's a long-term goal. Use AI for the icon.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be that hard, but the thing is, with that kind of stuff, I just need to implement writing. I need to be able to write to the sesh config file automatically somehow.
Okay.
And that doesn't really exist yet, but it's a great idea. Right now, you have to go to sesh config and you have to manually edit this file. So there is a good idea there of like, could I run a sesh command to like dump something into this file?
It's gonna be complicated because the permission.
But the whole AI, no, because it's a CLI. So
no, I mean to this folder, right to this folder.
It's a binary.
Does your basically if you run session in restricted
like Nix people probably will deal with that. No, I mean, they'll probably will. If we create a feature like that, you're going to have to put user permissions probably on the file. But I don't think that matters too much yet. That's not something that I plan on messing with, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Like, I think for now, I like the idea of growing the thing is, once you make these, like all these that I've made, they're all so freaking helpful. Like all the custom binaries that I make are in my custom binaries. And when I go to that, there's a session called My Custom Binaries. And all of these binaries that I made are all in one place and they're immediately file picker available.
Nice.
So like, I just think of like, what is the specific thing that I do day to day? Make a session for it.
Yeah, I think
and
the config session, this is like, oh, I love it.
It changes the game for me.
Yeah.
I already really liked sesh, but I wasn't able to. We played around with this idea of like startup commands, and it was clunky and it took a long time. The majority of these are just startup commands that are just a string.
Right.
So you just type what it is you want, and boom, you're done. There's only one of these that I did that's a startup script. So startup script is going to execute another file.
That's useful too.
And that's what originally we did. That's how we designed this.
Right.
So if we go to this node dev script, it's a bash script and it does some tmux scaffolding for you. So like creates, right? Yeah. I've shown you this.
Yeah.
It creates the node instance, although I think I'm having some node problems.
For certain folders, I always want to run the project first.
Yeah.
That's useful. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm doing, and it's very quick to do that kind of stuff. And there are other tmux tools out there that we've explored on stream before, and a lot of people that are here now were part of those conversations. So we've explored like tmuxinator and tmuxifier, and there's these other tools that already do all of that.
Okay.
But I'm finding so far to keep it simple.
Nice.
Like
I like it.
The ideas take a bit of effort to put together, but once it works, like you get to anywhere instantly, and you run a script. Typically, you just run a command when you in your entry point. Like the downloads one, I like the most. As an example, it's like, oh yeah, it just opens the file picker, because that's what I would expect to do when I go to the downloads folder. There's nothing else worth doing in the downloads folder but looking at the files. And so that kind of stuff.
Right? Yazzie.
Yeah, Yazzie.
Okay.
I do like having image generation.
Nice.
It's been pretty slick.
Yes.
Hey, doggy.
Okay.
My dog is tired of being in here. I think we might call it. It's been some time.
I've learned a lot.
So this was fun. We did a lot of talking today. You guys know me, I like to talk. So a lot of chatting. I have some good ideas. I think the sub command idea is really cool. I'm like, I love this idea that I think it'll just be some sort of, probably some new sesh command. So you have sesh connect. So maybe there's some sort of sesh list. And if you list a session, it will list its commands or something. I don't know.
Or session inside of sessions that like a set
but that just becomes a connect thing, where when you connect to a session that has this name, then it matches to that. And then when it matches to that, it will run multiple sesh connect commands, which and then I just do internally. Yeah, that happens in the Go logic.
That should be pretty easy, right?
That one will be straightforward.
Yeah.
But how do you design it is the question.
Right.
So there'll be some hierarchy here. There'll be something that lives in this file sesh config. that I have to decide how I'm going to structure what this is. The implementation on the coding side is really straightforward.
Gotcha.
There's a toml parser package that we use, and you just take the string dump of this file, basically, you throw it through a decoder or encoder,
Parser,
and it parses, it encodes it into Go.
Okay.
And you just give it
Just grab the object. Like
it's
the
not
list.
toml config. Yeah. So we have OS path and runtime as dependencies.
Yeah.
And then this part here, it gets the path, and then it just this thing here gets assigned to
from the Marshall file, that one.
We assign it.
Gotcha.
So the file is where's the file located, and then this config is assigned to this strut. And when you pass these two values in, it assigns it to config automatically. And this is just a pointer.
Gotcha.
So config just is updated.
Gotcha.
And the actual config values look like this. So you're saying toml is this value. Same with session configs. It is an array of session.
Yep.
And session is just session. And the double brackets mean you can have multiple definitions.
Okay.
And those multiple definitions just live. They just get parsed immediately, and it reads it.
You just need to add like a sessions in order for the other.
I don't know how I'll do it yet. I don't know yet. Yeah.
I mean, if
sessions might make sense.
If you want to just do like the nested sessions, like set instead of like doing the command.
Yeah.
That's pretty easy implementation, I guess.
I think it will be.
Yeah.
So maybe sessions will be what it ends up being, and inside it there's sessions.session.
Yeah.
And when you run it, it matches, then it just executes all the sessions.
Yeah. I'm excited. If I got free time, I definitely will contribute to this.
You want to contribute?
Yeah.
I had a lot of contributors at the beginning. Now that we're going to have V2 and it'll be a lot more structured, I can ask people for unit tests and be like, hey, you got to unit test this. And if anyone avoids the dependency injection pattern, I'll be like, great, this is really great, but you got to implement the dependency properly in order to test it properly in order for this to get merged. So there'll be a little bit more guidance.
Gotcha.
But
I really like the project.
it's been great. It's been so fun.
Changing my life, at least.
Changing your life. I need to put that on. I need to make some quotes for the README.
I'm using NeoVim full time now, like IDE.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, that's a big improvement.
Well, thanks for coming. I probably won't kick Day out of the house, but here he is again. Thanks all for hanging out. This was a fun time. A lot of exploring and conversation today, so hopefully you enjoyed it. If I'm alone next week, I'll probably be coding more, so more coding in the future. Quiet group today. I think they just kind of sat back and listened, apparently. That's all right. Glad you're here, and see you next time.